What was the Year to Live project?
It's a big question, man. I designed a 12-month social experiment. I was at a unique point in my life. I was getting divorced. My business partnership had fallen apart or ended. My ex-wife had been pregnant. So it was like I had these things that were pillars in my life that in very short order were not there anymore. And it created this massive amount of space, Ryan. And I
Okay.
literally drove from where I lived in California, a place called Santa Barbara, California, to LA. And I did a meditation class at a place called Against the Stream Meditation Center with Noah Levine. And I came out of the bathroom after this 90-minute meditation and Dharma talk, and literally on their cork board outside of the bathroom, it said the Year to Live program. And I was whatever, like it got me, right? I was like, what the heck is this? And I went home and Googled it. And they're like, oh, it's a 12-month program for people who are dying, who are like actively dying. We're all dying, but,
Mhm.
acutely dying. And it was a series of meditations and processes that they'd put people through so that they could die in peace or having like closed all the loops and made peace with things, had grace with things, etc. So here's the like quick and dirty of it. At the time, I was being asked to speak at TEDx LA. And I was like, I don't want to do a TED talk right now because they said I had to do like um a 6 week experiment, but it had to be very, very well tracked
Mm.
and codified, right? So another woman on the stage was essentially doing 6 weeks of keeping all her trash, like everything she consumed for 6 weeks, whether a candy bar wrapper or toilet paper wrapper, not toilet paper, and then she was going to come on stage and show everybody that. So like it can't be philosophical. I was like, I don't want to do this. So I don't want to do it. But the my TED coach at the time was like, I think you should do it. Run people through this pain protocol you've been talking about, but it needs to be empirical data. And so I leave the Against the Stream. I go home. She calls me. She's like, TED LA will take you right now if you're willing to do something scientific. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. And I hang up the phone and I just get this huge rush of chills. I was like, I know what I'm going to do. And I call her back and say, see if they'll take me a year from now. And I'm going to live the entire year. Here's my social experiment as if it were my last year alive. But I'm going all in. Like I'm going to live it truly as if it were my last year. I'm not going to F around and go light with it. So I sat down the next day, man, and like sat in front of a whiteboard and I just started meditating. And so I was like, I will sit here until I actually believe with my heart and soul, these are the things I would want to do. All the while kind of knowing, or at least hoping, that come January 1st, I'd still be alive. So it was a mix of like, what do I need to heal from my first 40 years of my life? And what do I need to learn and embody for hopefully the next 40 years of my life? And that process took me on a wild adventure.
It's so fascinating to me how some of the people who have the subjective highest levels of happiness are people that have a terminal illness,
Mhm,
or they just have that idea of death
mhm.
so close to them. Um, and it seems like there's, a unique phenomenon that happens there where, all that anxiety of the future and depression of the past and all that shit kind of just gets wiped away when you have that, you know, thing that you're staring in front of you.
Yeah, if I can jump in real quick, I met a man early on this journey who had 6 months left to live. He had really bad cirrhosis of the liver and this is it. Like, bro, you're done. January 1st, you're done by June 1st, or whatever the 6 month is, or July 1st. And long story short, I met him 2 years later because he had gone to Mexico and gotten an experimental drug that saved him and healed him, and asked him, like, how effing amazing that you're alive. And he's like, I hate it. I mean, yes, I'm grateful to be alive, but it was so much easier knowing I only need this 6 months worth of money. I've made my goodbyes. I don't have to worry about like getting a job. I don't have to figure out the unknown of the future. Like I had something in like a stake in the ground. And man, that I remember that conversation confused the hell out of me. Now you hear of people having a near death experience and then coming back to life, and it's like everything was brighter, the volume was cleaner, my relationships were purer. But this guy was like, I don't like it. And that was a bit of a trip for me.
I'm curious what do you think you do with that information? Like if you were that guy, right? And you're in that situation and you're like, fuck man, I was a lot more happy. I was having a lot more fun with that 6 month thing. Like now this job, this civilized life
Yeah.
is not what I'm feeling. Like what would you do in that situation?
I would get as close to how I was living before as possible. I think the beauty of it is you stop giving a shit about anything that's not personal. So, do I need a $42,000 BMW as my car? No. I need a 1986 Honda Civic because the only purpose of a car, if I'm going to be dead in 6 months, is to get me from A to B. And then what do I want to do with my time? Like radically, radically simplify. And people do this. They drop out of civilization. And I spend a lot of time in South America and Central America, and you get a lot of expats who say, I was working a 60, 80-hour week to get by, but get by in my New York City apartment with the kids in private school and insurance and the mortgage and three cars, blah, 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 blah. And go, well, how do you live now? Well, I make $18,000 a year. Cool. How do you live here? I live just much more simply. How much do you work? I work 10, 12 hours a week. Like, oh. And my American brain is like, what do you do with the rest of the time? You could be doing so much more. Like, well, I live, I hang out with friends, I surf, I hike, I engage with life, not just engage with a Zoom screen and a keyboard. I don't engage with deadlines. So I think I personally, and I do this a couple months a year, go down to Costa Rica and kind of unplug. And there's a different way of living down there where the big event of the day is sunset. Everybody gathers on the beaches for sunset, right? If there's good surf, no one's out doing anything but surfing. And this may sound, adolescent or immature, but I think we have to ask ourselves, when I get to the end of my days, do I want to look back and go, man, I surfed 200 days a year? Or how many times since I come back to the US, I'm like, man, I am on Zoom until 10 p.m. I scarf down dinner. I watch an hour of Netflix just to calm my nervous system down. I sleep erratically for 6 hours. I wake up at 5 a.m., slam 2 cups of coffee, and start the whole process again. And for a lot of people, that is their reality. And so I understand it's a privileged idea that you can perhaps move somewhere and work remotely, but a lot of people who could still don't. And I've part of that year I did live was volunteering in hospice. I spent a lot of time in hospice, and no one there said they wish they worked more. Now, there are big systems at play here with capitalism, with pricing, with how things are indexed and rates on things that we've watched society get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And that's not just financial. That's also, we're addicted to these guys, right? Like how much time, I was just joking with someone. I was born in the 70s. I didn't have a cell phone until I was like 28. And I remember being scolded by my company because they're like, you need to turn the phone on. That's why we gave you the phone. And I was like, it's in the glove compartment of my car. If I get in an accident or if I need it, I promise I will turn it on and use it. And now, I can't take a piss without taking my phone with me. So, long story short, radical simplification is the answer.
Hmm.
A return to
It's a
community
beautiful
is the
answer.
answer, right? I bought property in Nicaragua because I went there for a couple weeks to surf and watched how every night people would all descend on one house, and someone would bring a plate of fish, and someone would bring a plate of rice, and someone would bring plantains, and someone would just bring drinking water, and we'd all hang out and eat, and it'd be this big communal thing. And I was like, man, I'm eating dinner with people I don't know, but I feel like there's camaraderie here, there's community here, and I can go back to the US and I don't know my damn neighbors. And I've lived I've lived in the same house for 5 years. So this is a long answer to a short question, Ryan. I think it's a simplification and a return to community and a return to what our souls actually want from us. Right? I know these are like big, deep spiritual questions. What do you want to have done with your life when you look back? And can you unplug from a system that is so much bigger than you are? Most people I know who leave the US for a couple of months, myself included, and then return have a process we have to go through that's very uncomfortable. The food isn't as good. I get stomach aches. I put weight on. I don't sleep as well. I instantly get like sucked back into a system that isn't based around health, space, community, well-being, etc. It's about progress. And if people choose to live here and live that way, if it's by choice, it's very different than saying, I didn't even know, like I'm a fish surrounded by water. I didn't even know. That's most people here in this country, I think. I don't know if we're getting off track for your question, but
My Amer Oh no, who cares? I mean, my American brain, the first thing my American brain goes to when we talk about like working 10 hours a week, making $2,000, surfing all day is like, um, how much, it's probably subconscious and very frankly consciously, like how much self-worth I take out of how much money I make, how successful XYZ thing is, how successful a podcast is, like it really like all these external things, like I draw, self-worth out of that. And like what would that look like without those things? Like what is where do you, where do you draw your self-worth when you're surfing 20 hours a week and you don't have your phone to get that external validation? Like
yeah.
it's some deep questions, but I mean, man, I think it's reflected in just the fact that like anxiety levels in this country, depression, like all this shit is just through the roof. And
Mhm.
I mean, it's obvious just how disconnected we become from nature. I mean, I was even thinking today, I was walking, I was on a walk and I was listening to a podcast on the walk. And I was thinking about how before probably industrialization, the world was a quiet place. There wasn't a lot of noise if you're living on the farm or just living in nature. Like there's background noise, but
Mhm.
not this craziness, people screaming in my ears on a podcast or listening to music 24/7. And it's like me and I mean, I think a lot of people now, especially my age, like we need to be listening to something at all times. And it's just like it's just one microcosm into I think like this whole big picture that we're kind of dancing around. But I mean, man, it's just so fascinating, and I mean, I want to talk about the darkness and all this stuff, and I know all that plays in, but it's crazy.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense if we think about this, right? It doesn't make sense. And yet, if we're stuck in something that's so much bigger than we are, we really have no choice. So it takes a lot of momentum and a lot of resourcing to leave a system. Period, fucking period. It just does. I don't care what the system is, family system, church, government, country, etc. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of momentum to leave a system. And that system is very attractive to come back to. Right? I remember joking with someone. I'd just gotten back from Costa Rica and I'd spent maybe 3 months there. And I remember telling her, like, yeah, I can't sleep. I'm nauseous. I feel really uncomfortable in my own skin. I've got stomach ache from the food. But in 3 weeks, I'm going to go, you know what, though? I can push a button and Amazon will deliver anything I want in the next 6 hours, and that's awesome. And that's the trade-off, right? And I'll
Mm-hmm.
forget that there's this whole other way of living because I am so enamored and seduced by the speed, by the progress, by the availability that comes with the civilized world. And so it's a there's a duality there, Ryan. Like there's a pro and a con all the time. And it really does take breaking free of the system. And for a lot of people, a significant amount of time. Hey, I had to live here for a year. I had to move to Europe and sell everything and get an apartment there. And then start to let that system, right, introduce itself into our nervous systems. They go, no, no, no. It's crazy to me now that people living in Europe are like, no, 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 we don't get up at 5 a.m. and start working. That's ludicrous. Why would you do that? And here we're like, well, you get up at 4:30, you get a little bit more done, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I want to ask you about that though, in the sense of like, you mentioned this duality of modern life and a more traditional or ancient way of doing things. And it seems like there's a place to be had, and I'm curious your experience with this of walking that middle path
Mm,
and of getting that balance of being able to take so much of the good from modern life, because I love modern life. Like there's so many things about this shit that I adore. The fact that we could do this here right now, like is an example of that. But walking that middle path, because I think very often about what my life would look like without my phone, even, and how like if I just don't have my phone on me for most of the day, my life becomes a meditation in many ways. And
mhm,
even just me doing work or me reading a book or me going on a walk, like so many things of my daily life become a meditative act if I would just put the damn phone down.
mhm.
And it seems like even almost just like doing that one thing would be me walking that middle path and solving so many of the things and issues and desires that I currently have that I don't even want to have. Like
Right.
I was just curious your experience with trying to find that, delicate dance between those two different ways of living.
It's to be in this world, but not of it. That's the dance, right? I remember when I first launched Uncivilized and people were like, well, do you have internet? I'm like, of course I have internet, dope. Like I'm talking to you on Instagram. Like I still have a phone. I still eat, but yet every morning I'd start my day with my eyes closed in meditation, right? I spend as much time as possible in the forest. I do leave the country for a number of months a year and go and get plugged into a different environment. I think it takes that level of intentionality though. Otherwise, the your phone is designed by a group of people that are so smart and they know they're tapping into something that's so biologically driven that you can't work around it. It'd be like, how do you outthink hunger? How do you outthink your sex drive? You don't. These are biological processes that are literally hardwired into the nervous system, into the software of our lives. And so if other things are tapping into them, it's going to be very, very difficult to remove them. Almost we have to do what you said. You have to remove it for a long enough period of time that the influence of it leaves us, right?
Mm.
Say that again. To do it long enough, in a long enough period of time that the influence of it leaves us, that's when you actually get to see it with clear eyes. I like the term dark adapted eyes because I came out of the dark. And I was like, oh, I can now see the truth that if you explain to someone, hey, I have this computer with me at all times, and hundreds of, if not thousands of times a day, I check it. I check it. I check it to see if someone's given me a message. I check it to see if I've gotten a message on this other way, or this other way, or this other way, or this other way. I look at other people's thoughts. I read people arguing. I watch video of everything from cats doing fun things to children getting blown up in war. And my brain never knows what it's going to see. Do you want one? Most people will be like, what are you, absolutely insane? This is ludicrous, right? We can do the same thing with alcohol. Explain alcohol to an alien. Like, hey, we drink this poison, it makes us feel good, but a lot of us get addicted. A lot of violence and sexual crime comes from it. It's $1 billion industry. People die in car accidents all the time. A lot of people's lives get really, really ruined by it. If you do use it, the next day you feel awful. Sometimes 2 or 3 days you feel awful. Do you want to try it? People are like, what are you talking about? This is the most insane thing I've ever heard of. Right? But if it's culturally driven or it's in the culture, it's in the society, it feels weird to not engage in it. Or the society is set up that you almost have to. Right? We are almost at the point where you need if I'm in business, I kind of need a phone. And maybe I could say that I don't. And maybe I can do the old Tim Ferriss, like check my email for 10 minutes every morning and 10 minutes at night. But I run a business where clients expect some degree of communication. And maybe I could train them to not do that. And I do know people who do run their businesses that way, but they've been in business for like 15 years. And so they have a successful core of clients that they say, hey, here's how I operate. If you still want to work with me, you do it that way. But if you're starting from the ground up and you don't answer your phone and you answer your email once a week, I'll tell you, you're probably not going to be in business for very long.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yep.
socially, a lot of people go, well, where do I meet people? If we just use the two examples I gave you of how do I meet people if I don't drink? Where do I do at parties? Will I get invited to things? Will I date? Will I be able to start a family and procreate if I don't engage in these social activities? So there is a legitimate fear. I'm not just saying like I don't drink by choice, but I do own a phone. And I'm on it way more than I would like to be, given the talk I just gave you. Right? So it's baked in, man. It's hard to leave a system. Systems are designed to keep you. Again, I don't care what the system is.
Yeah.
And if you do leave the system, it has to view you as a threat. Again, think about that. It has to view you as a threat. And so even if you're like leaving, like AT&T is not going to come after me if I ditch my phone, but there will be some feeling internally or energetically that like I've done something wrong here. Why am
Left
I
the tribe.
different? Right? That all makes sense?
Absolutely. It all makes sense. And I think, there's two things that my mind goes back to when you were saying that. Like, one is the intentionality. And like, so often it's just being intentional about things, right? Like, if you just use your phone with intention, like, because you can, a lot of times it's not email or text messages or Slack that's like killing us. It's the short form videos and those type of things. It's like, all right, if I'm opening my phone with the intention that oh shoot, I haven't looked at my Slack in 30 minutes. I should see if anyone on my team needs me. Checking that Slack, putting my phone away.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the word I keep going back to is intention because like it seems like as long as you can do things with intention, there is it's a lot easier to do that dance. But yeah, I think it's one of those things that's like easier said than done, of course.
For
Like
sure.
there's so many modern pools and people smarter than you and me both chemical engineering these devices to be ultra addictive. But I want to go back to what you were mentioning or where we started this conversation with the Gear to Live project.
Sure.
And just how you spent your time in that
Yeah.
year and those biggest takeaways and uh, things that you brought into your life after that.
Mm. I spent a lot of time in hospice, as I said, volunteering. I went to my very first two men's workshops. That radically changed my life, obviously. Um, I did the month in the dark, which we can talk about. I did a month in Boulder Outdoor Survival School. So alone, not alone, a small cohort of us living in the woods, completely off grid, with very, very minimal equipment.
Did I read it was just a knife, water bottle, and a blanket
You had a poncho,
and a
essentially a
poncho?
compass, maybe two more things, but very, very little equipment. And a month is a long time
That's
to be out
crazy.
there, right? It's a long time. Took a leadership course at Esalen, the yoga of leadership, and did some family stuff, like brought my family together. I met my fifth grade crush. I hadn't seen her in, 30 years or whatever it was. Reconnected with some people, apologized to an ex-girlfriend about some things. It really was, this was the frame, Ryan. I wanted to say, if I got to that last day, would I take that last breath like fully full? Or would I have regret? And to me, it wasn't about, I want to see the Eiffel Tower. I want to have a threesome. I want to check boxes that I thought, if I do check this, it's really inane. Like, do I really care? And do I want to be of service? Do I want to learn? Do I want to reestablish myself as a human so that when I do come out of this, which I hope I do, I'm different? So again, it was a mix of those things, but I'll tell you, it was also pure freedom. I had money coming in because I'd sold a business, not a lot of money, but enough that I could live on. I was traveling wherever I wanted. I had very little of a schedule, right? I had a TED talk to do, and I had a couple of the things set schedule wise. But truly, for the first time, probably in my adult life, let myself roam. If I wanted to stay somewhere, I stayed there. If I wanted to move on, I moved on. And it was that level of freedom was really engaging and enticing and beautiful to have that much space, especially coming off of really, really big loss and even being in the midst of big loss, right? And my divorce was still going on. The business partnership was still was the business was sold, but there was still stuff to clean up there. It was a really hard time. And the takeaways, I mean, the main takeaway, I think anybody listening to this, volunteer in hospice. It will change your life and it change how you view death. And you will realize, at least I realized, that like this is coming. It's not theoretical. Like if I say like, hey, we're all gonna die, everybody listening to this is like, yeah, 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 at some point. But when you're actually there with the dying or having people die in your presence and hearing like what is important to you, what do you wish you did? Who do you wish was here with you? Do those little squabbles and things that drive us apart from people actually mean fuck all, at the end of your life? Did the fact that you spent 40 extra hours a week working to own the 10,000 square foot house, but here you are dying alone in a facility, was it worth it? Or do you just want to engage with life in a much richer and more courageous way? That was a big thing for me. I was debating becoming a writer, right? I was blogging this whole time as I went and like really getting into writing, but thinking like, do I have a book to write? What if people hate it? What if they hate me? And then going, wait a minute, I'm going to be dead. I just watched someone die. Who cares if people love or hate his book? He wrote his book. And so it was really inspiring in that way to realize, again, if we go back to duality of how unimportant I am, how insignificant my life is, and yet that allows and opens up for freedom to create some level of significance without any attachment. Does it make sense? Because whether my books become New York Times bestsellers or nobody reads them, I'm just as damn dead 20 years from now, or 15 years from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 minutes after we get off this call. So why not go for it? Why not shoot for the moon, right?
Yeah. What did the hospice experience teach you about how to spend your days, you think? Was it just that in the sense of other people's perceptions don't fucking matter because
They're relevant.
or was it was that was the biggest
There were two things from that experience, Ryan. One, what you just said, right? You're a public figure of some sort. How many night sleeps have you lost because someone made a shitty comment about an episode or a social media post or something that you're like grinding on all night? Like, wait, why don't they understand me? Why don't they, what happened here? They don't like me, such and such. It's irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. It literally means nothing. So really take that from a theoretical idea to swallow it down to the depth of your stomach and go, it actually is irrelevant what other people think of me. It does not affect my life in any way. That's an easier thing to say than to live fully, because we are human. We want people to like us. We want to be understood. We want to be seen. We want to be met. We want to be heard, right? We want to be protected. We want all these great things, or human things. But yet publicly, it's like it was so helpful for me to go, I actually don't give a fuck. I don't
Yeah.
even know who you are. So your opinion of me doesn't really matter. And to see even fleeting some people who are close to you, they may not be close to you a year from now. And that's okay too. And so take their opinion with a grain of salt and live what's true for you, doing as little damage as you can. There is karma, there is responsibility. I'm not telling people just to blow up their lives and follow their quote truth. But man, at the end of the day, at the end of your days, it's just you. And we all die alone. So that was a biggie. But here was number two. This was really important for me. As an American, as a male, as a high performing human, right? As someone who is achievement oriented and goal oriented and has achieved a fair amount. I remember sitting across from a guy early on and asking him, like, well, what do you want me to do with you? You want me to read to you? You want to play cards? You want to play games? Do you want to, like, what do you want to do? And he literally just looked at me and said, I just want you to hang out with me. Would you mind just staying here for a bit? I just want, and I was like, wait. But I have all these, don't you want to see my resume? Don't you want to know all these cool things about me? Right? Don't you want to like know where I went to school and where I got my graduate degree and the company I just built and this thing that I'm working on? And it was literally like, no. Can you be present with me here? Was what he was saying. And I realized the value of presence. We again, this is kind of cliche, like, oh, you need to be more present. You need to be more present. I believe it's a superpower and the greatest gift you can give any other person on the planet, including yourself, is to actually be present in your body when you're engaging with them. You're sitting across from someone eating lunch, be there, be with them. And it like sharpened my focus and sharpened my presence, because I remember thinking, this dude may not have 48 hours left. And so what am I going to check my phone when I'm sitting with him? What am I going to hop on social media and let him know that this inane thing I have in my pocket is more important than the last 2 days of his life? When his family's not here and he's in pain and I'm the only bright spot of the last 48 hours, man, that was, whew. To then try to live that way in every social interaction, business interaction, coaching interaction, and to make the practice of presence something I actively engage in. Can I be more present right now? Not just in the hour of meditation that's like, blah, 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 my monkey mind's going all over the place for the rest of the day. But can I be present with everybody who I'm in front of, including the dude in the mirror? That was a $1 billion lesson.
I mean, it's very beautifully said, and you mentioned the practice of presence, which I think is probably the best definition of meditation. Um, I think you just mentioned you engaged in an hour of meditation a day. You said
Mm.
what what has that practice done for you? And I'm almost hesitant to ask the question in that way because it goes back. It's like my American mind, everything is very like outcome oriented. Like,
Mhm.
what am I gonna get out of this practice? And I don't. It's probably not the right way to look at things. But it's the way my brain processes it at least.
I'll tell you a story. I did leading up to the dark the first time. I was at a facility called the Upaya Zen Center in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and they did a 3-day sit. And the 3-day sit was, I think, 12 hours a day of meditation. With, obviously there's breaks and you walk around and you eat lunch but you're in there. You're cooking for a good amount of time. And at the end of the 3rd day, people were allowed one by one to go spend 15 minutes with the Roshi, the guy leading it, the guy that's been doing this for, 40, 50 years. And it came to be my turn. And I went in the back and I sat with him and I was like, okay, what's a question I really want to ask? And 12 hours a day, Ryan, some shit comes up. I'm an athlete, right? Like, that was not easy. I don't care who you are. That's just not easy. And so I'm sitting across from this man. I said, please just tell me that at some point this all gets easier. Like, there's some breakthrough day when meditation, like the clouds open, like people talk about runner's high, I've been running for my whole life and it's never once has it been pleasurable. I'm still waiting for that day that it magically supposedly happens. So, like, is there a meditation high that at some point you break through this threshold and meditation's easier? I was like, tell me this gets easier. And he looks at me and he goes, I'll be honest with you. Most days it's as hard as the very first day I sat on the mat. But the rest of my life is significantly easier. And I went, oh, okay. I get this. If we use athletics as an analogy, if I go in there and I'm benching 225 and I'm sweating and it's like my muscles are burning and it's painful, 5 years from now, I may be benching 275, but it's just as painful. My muscles are burning just as much. I'm sweating just as much, but the rest of my life has to be easier because I'm stronger. So to me, the answer to what you're asking is meditation is like concentrated, intentional presence. Now that has to leak in to every other area of your life. It has to. Will it take time to get there? Yes. But will the benefits go? They're not singular. It's not like, oh, I meditated for 10 years, so I just read better, but I'm shittier with my kids. I'm angrier in meetings. And no. It like spreads wide across everything. So I've been meditating now for almost 30 years. My life is radically better. It also, I'll tell you, because shit happens during acute periods when I was getting divorced, I've had business challenges, relationship breakups, friendship arguments, to have that skill to come back to is monumental. To go, wait a minute, I've actually have engaged with something for decades that it exists for just the times like this. Right? So it's a monumental telling you. I used to argue all the time with myself if I was asked, especially because I was a gym owner, which is more important, fitness or meditation? I'd be like, oh man, that's an impossible question. I would still struggle with the answer because the benefits of each are so widespread. Right? You're in the gym
And they're almost the
once,
same.
right?
Like
Truly,
it's
they're almost the same.
yeah.
But
And
it's almost
yeah,
like this is the dojo for your mind, is the meditation mat.
I mean, man, it's so well said, and it almost reminds me of something that I heard one time that landed really strongly on me, that it's your routine is your safety net when things go wrong in your life. That if you
100%.
have a routine that I go to the gym at 11 a.m. I wake up at this time. I go get coffee. I go to the gym. I meditate. I turn whatever it may be. That is your home for when things in your life go awry, and
Mm-hmm.
that that routine is kind of what allows you to feel at home in times that seem a little dark. And it seems like meditation is the ultimate form of that, where no matter what goes awry, even if you're even if you're paralyzed and your body's taken away from you in a fundamental way, it's like you still have that bedrock foundation that you can return back to and be like, this is familiar. This is
Mm.
a home in a way. It's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah, thank you.
And I want to ask you about I have to ask you about the darkness because we've mentioned it quite a bit, but I don't think
Mhm.
people realize that you spent 28 days in isolation and darkness.
Mhm.
What dive break down that whole thing for me because
Sure, sure,
it's my
sure.
mind boggling.
Yeah. In 2016, I spent 28 days in a dark retreat for my first time. This past year, I spent 49 days in the same experience. So, a dark retreat is a period of time in isolation in a room that is pitch black 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Someone brings you food so that you don't have to turn the lights on and cook or try to eat.
Yeah.
This is a facilitated experience. It's not a solo experience completely. And the idea of it is to remove distraction, every external distraction other than body functions and eating. And that is exactly what it becomes. So I'll just speak about myself, get to drop into parts of myself, be that historical, thinking about my past, be that analyzing what I want to do in the business in the future, which is not a good reason to go in, be it trauma, be it relationship issues, be it relationship with myself, or in this last round when I went in for 7 weeks, like truly just sitting with my soul. Some people say they find God. To me, God is up and out. I went down and in, and I spent weeks just with the depth and the truth of who I am, what I want to do, why I'm here on this earth, what gems of wisdom there are for me that I need to bring forward, all kinds of, for lack of a better term, spiritual experiences, hallucinating, going crazy, talking to people. I wrote another book in there. I wrote my first TED talk in there in 2016. Um, it's a form of intimacy, Ryan, that is almost impossible to describe unless someone's done it.
Um,
Because think about it. Think of where you would go after 3 days without your phone. Now magnify that by 100. Then magnify that by 1,000. Like you can't even conceptualize what's going on internally. I'll give you guys a quick example. When I did it in 2016, maybe at the week mark or 4 day mark or 5 day mark, I spent the entire day lying on my back on the floor and visualizing every single one of my K through 12 classrooms. Who was where, who was sitting where, what the decorations were on the wall, who the teacher was. Like I literally, it was like having, I mean, now you ever seen those like real estate VR like maps
yeah,
of the
oh
house,
yeah, of
right?
course.
And they like
Yep.
they walk you through the house, but you're not really in the house, you're on your computer. My brain would do the exact same thing with my first grade class, second grade class, third grade class. Now, if you ask me right now, close your eyes, meditate for half an hour, think of who is 4 rows up and 2 rows over in your third grade class. I'm like, I don't even remember the fucking building. But I literally could go space by space by space in there. And so now that's not why you do this. It's not like, cool, go visit elementary school, but it gives you a little bit of insight into what's inside of you that we don't have access because of the repetitive distractions that keep us here from the neck up. Does this all make sense?
Absolutely. What's the integration process like after something like that? Like, what is it like doing something like that so extreme and coming back to, modern modern life?
I'll speak about this round because I'm still in the integration process. and I came out in July. And this is we're recording it November 24th. And maybe 2 weeks ago, I was like, okay, I'm back on solid ground now. But for months and months, nothing made sense. Relationship doesn't make sense. The supermarket didn't make sense. Groups of people were wildly overwhelming for me. I couldn't go to dinners or hang out with folks. I spent a lot of time by myself, a lot of time reading, but it had to be fiction. I couldn't ingest nonfiction, or I couldn't ingest like business stuff, which I usually read. Uh, Wild swings of energy where, oh, it's 2 o'clock. I'm out of energy. I'm done. I'm done. I don't care what's at 3:30. I have to cancel it. Um, Very much one foot in each world. Where meditation in the morning, I would blindfold myself and be like, oh, I'm back at home. This makes sense to me. Not being able to see makes sense to me. This world was fucking bananas. And I live in Boulder, which is a pretty peaceful, quiet place. But still, like, why are people driving so fast? Why are the houses so big? Why is food so expensive? Why are people talking so fast? Why aren't they talking about anything meaningful? What is this weird interaction I have to have at the supermarket when they go, how was your day? And I go, good. And they say, good. You know, like society didn't make sense. So it's a long, slow, unique interact or integration and
Would you
a little
characterize
bit
that
of
experience as
sorry,
good or bad? Sorry to cut you
I
off.
no, it's okay. I wouldn't characterize it as either. I would just say it was hard. That's the best way to put it. Not good or bad,
Uh,
hard.
yeah.
I remember having an integration period after doing a month in the woods, like coming back and walking through Whole Foods and thinking like, why are there so many products here? I don't need 90% of this shit. I have to buy there's $14 salt. Like why is salt for you know what I mean? It didn't
Mm-hmm.
make sense. But the dark, yeah, there was I needed a lot of space, brother. A lot of just okay, I've got the afternoon off. I'm gonna go sit on my porch and stare at a tree and sort of wait for the process to
Badass.
continue to unfold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Super, super slow. And I had to come back and find a place to live, change a bunch of stuff about my
Oh
business,
yeah.
launch a book, do a talk, do multiple workshops. Like I had to live a normal life as a business owner and a teacher and an author to get on podcasts. I had to do my own interviews. So it was very much like be in the world and then retreat from it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of time alone
What
in
was
rooms, just quietly sitting by myself.
what was the like physical, like I know you love athletics and lifting, like
Yeah.
did that feel primal and like a good like how was that aspect of the experience?
I worked out in there every day,
Okay.
hundreds and hundreds, about thousands and thousands of push-ups, sit-ups, squats, etc. And yet when I came out, I had very little desire to exercise. I'm a jujitsu guy, and I haven't been on the mat since I've come out because it felt too intense. It was too
Uh-huh.
chaotic. Even going to the gym, I would go early, early in the morning when no one's there, have my own music that's very quiet music, very almost like listening to classical music as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to listening to Tool or Metallica or something else. And I'm not lifting heavy. I'm moving, just like moving my body because it felt like it's too much strain. I already had enough strain trying to live in the world. I didn't want to add
Mm-hmm.
more strain to it, if that makes sense. It's an odd experience. You're right. I love weightlifting, love jujitsu. I think if I could have lived in a perfect world, I would have come out and just surfed for 4 months. Like just work and surf, something mellow, something in the ocean, something that's rhythmic, something that's got nature involved. That would have been ideal, but I just didn't have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. I mean, man, what a unique experience that such few people have gotten to experience.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it is like why do you do this? Like when you think about that now in hindsight, it like what drew you in there, and do you feel like you got what you wanted from an experience like that? Obviously, you've done it multiple times. Like, do you feel like, the why gets accomplished? Because to be honest, from the outside, it sounds like a lot. It sounds like
It is a lot.
it sounds like you're almost it's almost like a donation of yourself to figuring
Mm.
out the art of living, and
Mm.
like a part of that is painful.
Hmm. It's a medicine. The darkness for me is a medicine. Some people choose plant medicine. Some people choose breath work. Some people choose other modalities. For whatever reason, when I was introduced to this idea, it grabbed me. And I think it grabbed me because it was completely opposite of all the strengths and talents and skills I had in the world. I was a speaker, ex-pro fighter, writer, right? None of that's worth shit in a pitch black room. So I wanted to see, do I have other skills and talents and things that are dormant? I have to in order to survive. 28 days for a first time is insane. Most people, their recommendation is to do 3 days to start. A month is a long, long, long time. Trust me. You get to day 6 and go, wow, I still have to do this almost four more times. It's so hard to describe. There's nothing to do. So I'll come back to your original question. For whatever reason, it hooked me, right? And I was super intrigued. And it did to me all the things that I couldn't get elsewhere, Ryan. It transformed me, changed me, broke me, opened me in all of these ways that I couldn't get from ayahuasca, from psilocybin, from breath work, from working, from writing, from going to church, you name it. And then the second time round, I didn't have a plan to do it. And then again, like it knocked. Like I woke up one day, I'd had a close family member commit suicide. And I remember the next morning sitting at breakfast and being like, how could this have happened? I run a men's movement that helps people just like him. This is what I do. It's what I do all day long. He has my number in his phone. Like this is someone close to me. And I remember hearing, for whatever, and call this whatever you want. Like it's time to write the book that I'd been sitting on for the last 10 years
Mm,
about the first experience, because it felt like darkness was in the societal conversation, but people didn't know how to navigate it. Like we're in the time in the myth when the king is sick and the rivers are poisoned and people are starving and the society's not doing well. To me, that sounds like there's darkness that's come in. And we live in this love and light, everything's going to be great, good vibes only culture. So like I need to talk in a way that will help people reframe their shadow, their pain, their desire, all the things that they've tucked in the corners. So that was statement number one. Like, you got to start writing that book. And then number two, literally was like, and it's time to go back in. And this time you got to go in longer. And I was like, fuck,
mm.
I have shit to do. I have a dog, right? Like I've work to do, but it was undeniable. I knew
Yeah.
it. Within 24 hours, I'd reached out to the woman who guided me the first time. It was like, do you guys have space for me to come back for 7 weeks? And she said, yes, we do. It's a very long time though, right? It's not novel. I don't want to present this as a novel idea. That same guy who I told you about, who introduced me to it, the guy with the cirrhosis of the liver, he's still alive. And I emailed him maybe a month before I went in. And I was like, hey, just so you know, I've written a book about this experience. I'm going back in. This is such a big part of my life now. I'm about to do 7 weeks. And I thought I would get a different email from him in reply. He basically said, be careful. A lot of people kill themselves when they do that. And I went, oh shit. Okay, this is a big deal. This is the Mount Everest of inner experiences, right? It's crazy. A lot of people don't make it out okay from this experience. And so I still sat with, yeah, but I was called back. And if I'm going to live my life in the way that I say I live it, trusting my gut, trusting the inner visions, trusting the voices, trusting my instinct, which is how I do live it, then I have to heed this call and trust that I will come out okay.
Mhm. It almost reminds me of the scene in Shawshank Redemption, um, where I mean, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but one of the inmates, he's a very old dude. Um, he's been in there for, I don't know, call it 40
Brooks.
plus years, and then he gets out, Brooks,
Yeah.
and he ends up, taking his own life because it's like all, all he all he knew by that point in his life was those walls, and
Mm-hmm.
those walls like became home. And then seeing like modern life in a grocery store was like this, overwhelming experience for him. I mean, I don't even know what you do with that information, but
Yeah.
it's a fascinating thing to even just hear about.
Mm-hmm. It's a trip, man. It's a trip.
Yeah.
And it's the most, I said, it's where I go to do my deepest work. I get more out of being in the dark than I do a year of therapy. For whatever reason, my system and my spirit and my soul are oriented that when that door shuts and the candle gets blown out, it's like, let's get to work. And I start chewing on things and chipping away at
Hmm.
things and get given things that radically change my life.
There's a quote from Naval where he says like most people will pay someone else to listen to themselves to listen to them, where
Mm.
when they never take the time to listen to themselves.
Mm.
And to me, it's like, my mind goes to the meditation, the darkness, all that stuff to kind of, do you feel like, because I mean, you just mentioned it, like, you get more out of doing that experience in a year of therapy. Like, how worthy of a path is that, for a young person, someone in there, or anyone really? Like, how meaningful is just taking that time to listen to themselves?
First of all, I'm a big fan of therapy. I went through a lot of therapy before I went into the dark. So I don't want to shit on therapy or have it sound like I'm shitting on therapy. To answer your question, it is the most meaningful. There is nothing more meaningful than your relationship with yourself, not just with your head. I will say, not just with your heart, which is very, very, a relationship with your heart is almost, if not more important than a relationship with your head. Meditation will shut your mind off long enough so that you can have access to your heart. And I know I'm using a loaded term, but then there's another layer of depth, which I will say is your soul, which is the information that you came in with to this life, or the energy that you came in with into this life with, that goes out when you go. And I'm not a religious person, so I don't care if people don't put a religious label on this. There's some spark of energy that lives inside of you, a truth that when you do access it, you get insight into things, into your being, into the being of the world that radically change how you exist. And it's men or women, I don't care whom, when you are in alignment with that depth of truth, not your trauma, not your wounds, not what society wants of you, not what your ego wants of you, I find that your life becomes significantly better. It may be harder at times, but it's more satisfying, it's more real. The level of satisfaction is pure, which is a reason why people will make $50 million and then quit and go be like a junior high school science teacher and say like, yeah, but man, this lights me up. Like I'm excited. I'm living in a one bedroom apartment and I'm, kids are sometimes a pain in the ass, but like I love what I do every day. People find that path. Like how many actors do we know have left movies and gone back to the theater? When 50 people will see them in a night, as opposed to the millions that saw them on Friends or whatever the show was. Because that to me is like your calling, right? I came out of there and was like, I'm going to reorganize my business so that the most important thing that I do is right. I have all these other programs and all these other offshoots and workshops and all this. Like, no, that's not a priority anymore. Writing is the priority because that is when I'm in relationship and in communication with my soul.
Mm. So I have a very selfish question. I apologize to the audience for me asking it, but it's very just self-centered question, which is like as a 25-year-old single dude who, wants to achieve and go and, um, but also like, the art of living and like all these, the very deep and meaningful questions that you're touching on. Um, what would your advice to me be in terms of just really anything, but like just really squeezing the juice out of this thing in terms of life from because I want to just maximize my time, and I think like when I think about what I want to do in this life, it comes down to that word of just like the art of living and
Yeah.
really just following the curiosity and all that stuff. Like what would your advice to someone like myself would be?
You said it. Follow the curiosity and be unapologetic about changing course. At your age, it's important to have accomplishments. You're in the warrior phase of figuring out what can I do? How well can I do it? How big can I grow the thing? You have time, you have energy, you don't have a lot of attachments. You may not have had the shit kicked out of you by life in the big ways of someone dying, someone getting sick, losing a child, getting divorced, these things that like really do sap you of deep life energy. So I would say accomplish everything that you can, Ryan, and leave room for the fucking magic of adventure, right? I grew up in a time when I got on a plane at age 28, flew to Thailand to kickbox for a couple months. There was no internet. I just literally didn't even know
Badass.
where I was going. I knew there was internet. I'd seen a blog about this one school. Didn't know how to get there. Showed up, got in a taxi. He dropped me off somewhere. Saw some guy in Muay Thai shorts. Ran up to him and was like, "Hey man, you have Muay Thai shorts on. Is the camp near here?" And that dude was like, "Yeah, actually, come with me." We're still friends to this day, 21 years later. Two of the guys I met at that camp, literally, own the publishing company that published my last book. Even if none of that had happened, I knew in my 30s when there was a time to settle down, when there was a time to go, hey, I want to start a family. I want to get rooted a little more. I knew I'd let that part of myself, the wild man, the wildness, explore and be free and fuck up and get in adventures and get in a little bit of trouble and like live a whole life, an unsanitized life. Right. And yet I will also tell you, I remember meeting guys in my early 20s when I was bodyguarding. One of my clients had these giant, like literally 100 $200 million yachts, and there were guys working on these boats, and I was like, what do? You just scrub the fucking boat all day? And they're like, yeah, but we see the world. We get paid in cash. We get $10,000 tips. I'm like, but do you have an apartment? Do you have a home? Do you have, like, no, we just live in this tiny little cabin on a boat. Yeah. And now in hindsight, I'm like, man, that would have been a rad way to spend 3-4 years of my life. just traveling around the world, living on the ocean, being in a small community with people. So I'm saying to you, don't ditch your goals. Don't be frivolous with your life, and allow for some frivolity, if that's the word. Allow for some adventure. Get lost a couple times. Like this, we now live in a very safe world. We live in a world where at any point we can pick up a phone, push a button, know exactly where we are, and get rescued. But man, I will tell you, some of the fondest memories of my life were just being like, I have no fucking idea where I am. I'm out of money. I don't know how I'm going to get back. And I don't speak the language. And in hindsight, being like, that was awesome. And as you do make more and more of standardized accomplishments, you will also come back to the times of chaos of like, man, it was crazy back then. I have no idea how we survived that. And go, that's the actual juice. Those are the things you take with you, not the diploma on the wall, not the money in the bank, but the experience of life itself. That's what I would recommend. Like, eat it up, man. Squeeze the fucking juice out of life. Play a little bit risky sometimes, Ryan. Guess what? You have the ability and the time to lose it all 3 or 4 more times before it even matters. Please take that opportunity.
Most definitely. And I think just for a calling for everybody, like the world is so, the word I come to is nerfed in so many ways from an actual legitimate, like you're you're pretty safe, like you were saying, like you have 911 on your phone and you could, Uber out of most situations. Uh, but even just from like a financial perspective, like for most of us, like even if we lost everything financially, like we're not gonna be homeless. We have friends, like we have family. Like the take like the risks are so imaginary in so many realms and we have such confusion around like you know the what's actually possible. Like I think there's so many just limitations and people are just not don't ever even fucking try to
Mm-hmm.
do anything for that fear. Meanwhile, the fear just doesn't it's completely imaginary. Like it's fascinating to me. I even think about running my business and like starting a business, right? I started an online business where for a lot of online businesses, you don't need a lot of capital to start. Like start an agency service-based business and you need $500 to get some softwares. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
good. And then even if that burns to shit and it doesn't work out, like your your resume looks so much better than somebody who went and
Mm-hmm.
got an internship or whatever at some random place. Like now looking at my resume by doing the quote unquote risky thing,
Mm-hmm.
like it's actually in a way better spot than it would be if I did the safe thing. Like all these illusions that we have in our brain are just um so many of them are just made up and they're not
Yeah.
even close to the reality of the situation.
Yeah. And progress is a bit of a lie. I know so many people who have shifted and turned and redirected and 180'd. And I've had 5 different careers in my life, like 5 completely different careers. And I'm super grateful for all of them. And I'm super grateful for the time when I knew I don't want to do this anymore. Despite having invested 5 years or an education or a degree in it, I don't want to do it anymore. I want to get to the end of my life and look back and go, fuck yeah, that was rad. That was awesome. That was intentional. That was connected. That was beautiful. I got to see stuff that people don't get to see. I got to do stuff that people don't get to do. Even if it is reclusing myself and being alone or upset or tired or in the dark, to have a deeper and richer experience as it goes. Like, you guys, swing for the fucking fences. If you've taken nothing but this from this conversation, and I don't want this to sound morbid, you are going to die. We all are. And then none of the shit you ever worried about fucking matters. So go seek your bliss. Go live the truth that lives in the depth of your belly. Do that. Be brave. Be unapologetic. Be uncivilized. Do not get trapped in this game that says, as soon as I turn the corner, I will do that. As soon as I turn the corner, I will do that. As soon as I just get around this one little part, I'll do that. There is no good time. Write your book. Ask the girl out. Go on the trip. Start the business. Start the fucking podcast. Take the damn risk. You just nailed it, Ryan. Like, I remember walking my best friend in our 20s through like worst case scenario of him leaving a company and starting his business. I was like, what is the worst case? Like, well, let's go worst case. After you've lived on my couch for 6 months, which would be awesome. It's like, I'd have to move back in with my parents. It's like, okay, you're 28 years old. That's embarrassing. And if that's the worst thing that could possibly happen to you, for you not seeking your bliss, for you getting to the end of your life and not risking it for that, like there are people who go across countries, they're like risk their lives. And we're like, oh, one of my friends make fun of me for living at home. Fuck them. They're going to have to move home at some point too. Do the analysis, but even then, throw the fucking analysis out the window and just go for it. Trust me, and trust some older guys. I remember when I started that Year to Live project, I'll leave you guys with this story. There were guys in my gym, these two older guys, separately in the same day, Ryan, who heard what I was doing. I was leaving the business. It was my business. I was super connected with everybody. Two separate guys in the same day came up to me, put their hands on my shoulders, both had tears in their eyes, and said, do it. This thing that people are trying to talk you out of, go do it. Because I can't do it anymore. I've got 2 kids in private school. I've got a mortgage. I've got an ex-wife. Like, I can't do what you have the freedom to now do. Go do it on my behalf. 2 separate guys. And now I'm still probably a little bit younger than they are at the time, but I get it. When young guys come in the nation or come into Uncivilized and say, like, which way should I go here? Where all the older guys are like, go the unsafe route. Take the risk. Fuck it. Roll the dice. Live big. Live brave, right? Go do it. So I'll leave you with that story.
That would be a beautifully poetic way to end this conversation, but I have one more question that I have to ask you before we leave, which is about relationships and just like, kind of going back to me as a 25-year-old single guy, like what would your outlook be both on what to look for and where you think you should find, the right girl when, drinking is out of the picture. Because I think that's a common thing I hear from the audience and even just like my close friends around me and stuff is like, I don't like to drink. How the hell do I meet girls my age? So I'm just curious your perspective on both, finding and what to look for.
Find someone whose values match up with yours. That's number one. Do your values match up? Do you appreciate the same things out of life? And has this woman done some work? Does she know how to regulate herself? Does she know herself? How does she fight? How does she argue? Right? Has she gone to therapy? She worked through some of her major traumas. This stuff is really important. This is a biggie that a lot of people think is poo-poo, especially for guys. Are you sexually compatible? There's a huge part of relationship that gets tucked under the rug in the West. It's a big reason why people split up, get divorced, cheat, etc. Are you sexually compatible? Can you hold a conversation because you don't just have sex all the time? Is she interesting to you? Are you interesting to her? Right? Are you are you receiving from her as much as you're giving? This is what relationship to me is about. Do you want to build the same thing? And how do you find it, brother? I know people who've gone on dating apps, who've gone to bars, who bumped into. I say, live your bliss. When you are engaged in the things that light you up, that is how you find people. Mm-hmm. I've never, ever had trouble finding partners. I'm not an exceptionally good-looking guy. I'm not a standout in a lot of places. I've met people doing the things that I want to do in my life. That is the number one way I'd say you find somebody. Because one, they're probably doing the same shit, which means you're going to be compatible. And two, you're living your life as you go. So you're not waiting or putting a lot of effort into something specific. Live your life, be open, talk to people, be communicative, be a decent human being. And I don't think it'll be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, biggest thing's probably just leaving the fucking house, getting out of the house, and actually getting
It's
in
an
and
in-person game, man. It's an
living. Yeah.
yeah, life is an in-person game.
This was so much fun. This hour 20 just absolutely flew by. Appreciate you.
My pleasure, brother.
Man, we could do so many of these going in billions of directions, but thanks for taking the time today.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
Sweet. And where should people find your stuff? Any key places we should send them?
Yeah. Go to manuncivilized.com. I have 3 different books, one called Today I Rise, one called Man Uncivilized, and this last one, 28 Days in Darkness, just came out. That's available on Amazon and Audible, or you can find me on Instagram at Traver Boehm, TraverBoehm, or just look up Uncivilized. If I don't come up, please find me and let me know what you looked at and why it didn't come up, because I'll have someone to talk to. But thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you. Cheers, Ryan.